5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Minister Lynn Davis, and I'm here with Bishop Andy C. Lewter. It's a privilege to interview him. We all know that America has accepted a new president. As of this morning, a new president, Donald J. Trump. So I'm here just interviewing Bishop Lewter, getting some thoughts and some views about his opinion on what happened with the election. I just want to give Bishop Lewter an opportunity to introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Minister Davis. I am Bishop Andy C. Lewter, Senior Pastor of the Hollywood Full Gospel Baptist Cathedral, located at 3504 Great Neck Road, right here in Amityville, New York. I'm also the Executive Editor and Publisher of the Manna Community Newspaper and President of the Long Island Organizing Network.
Thank you, Bishop. Based on the election, I just had a couple of great questions I wanted to ask Bishop Lewter. If I could start off with the first question. Based upon the election last night, what is your opinion of what happened? How did Donald Trump, overall, your opinion? I know many of us surprised this morning when we woke up.
Well, my opinion is that having followed the polls for the last several weeks, and the polls having led us to believe that this was a 3 to 5 point race in the on the behalf and in the favor of Hillary Clinton, I, like so many others, assumed that there would be victory on the Democratic side. I do think, however, that Mr. Trump was able to rally a segment of the population. I think they are referred to as propensity voters, meaning that they have not voted with regularity over the last 2 presidential cycles. They have primarily stayed home. And because of the way that Mr. Trump has rallied this segment of the population, they came out in numbers that far exceeded what anyone could have anticipated, certainly what the polls have anticipated. And so when you look at the electoral map from yesterday and you see the sea of red, primarily in the rural areas, there's a term that has been coined over the last few weeks. Is called not suburban or urban, but ex-urban, which refers to the rural portions of our country.
Well, thank you, Bishop Lewter. And let me ask you, based upon what you're telling us, what do you think on the Democratic side, could we have changed or done better to get better results, to put Hillary Clinton in her place?
Well, I think that the Democratic did all that they could do. Let me begin with the African American vote. The African American vote for Senator Kerry, prior to the phenom of Barack Obama, supported the Democratic ticket at a rate of 88%. With Barack Obama, that rose from 88% to 93%, some even say 95%. On last night, Hillary Clinton secured 88% of the African American vote. So I think that we have done what we normally do. We have done what we have traditionally done. I don't think that we'll ever see that kind of voter turnout on the part of African Americans again. I think Barack Obama was indeed a phenom and probably a once-in-a-lifetime event. I think that Hillary Clinton waged a credible campaign. I just think that the propensity voters, the rural residents from around the country far exceeded anybody's expectations.
Well, thank you, Bishop Lewter. And one more question. Now that we have a new president in place, Republican president, what do you think that the African American community can expect in the next 4 years?
Well, I think that we have to take a wait and see attitude. One of the things that concerned so many people was that Donald Trump, never having served in public office, had no record to run on, no record to refer to. He's a businessman, and so his business accomplishments were cited, but he had no experience or record or track record as it relates to governing. I think the African American community, all of us, even the Democratic Party, will now wait and see what happens in terms of his ability to govern, and we will then have to adjust to the reality that we have a different person in the White House now. But we'll have to take a wait and see attitude and see how well he is able to govern, how well he will be able to fulfill the promises that he made during the campaign season. Many of us are anxious to know whether or not this was bluster and these were promises made merely to secure the nomination and later on the election itself, or are these items that are intended to be fulfilled? I have a dear friend in New York City who works in New York City, and so many of the Hispanic children were crying today because they are undocumented, their parents are undocumented, and based upon the commitments and the promises that Mr. Trump has made, they're fearful for their lives. They're fearful of being displaced. They're fearful of the deportment force that has been promised to go from house to house, drag people out of their homes, and send them back to their places of origin. We don't know if any of that's true. We don't know if he intends to do any of that. We really need to take a wait and see attitude to see exactly what happens. What I'm hoping will happen is that much of what he has said over the last 10 months indeed was bluster, indeed were political promises made in order to secure the office. But now that the office is secure, I am hopeful that he will be more disciplined, more regimented in his behavior. He'll be less temperamental, and that he will bring the country together as opposed to divide the country.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bishop Lewter, for that insight. And we want to thank you for joining us. Again, I'm Lynn Davis, Minister Hollywood for Gospel, Baptist Cathedral, and Executive Producer of Family Community Media. Thank you, Bishop Lewter.
You're so very, very welcome.